Good
Hi.
afternoon.
Hi.
Hello. So I hope that everyone had a chance to get the book, to read the book, to let the book saturate within your souls because it's so much that you can kind of grapple with and think about. Mainly, I'll just do a little thing about myself. I work at Governor State, been in Governor State for for about, it'll be 8 years in March. Um, I work with high school students now. My background is in admissions and recruitment, but I'm a director of look at Mike's picture. I'm the director of College Pathways program, which work with high school students to get them college prepared. But my method is not the standard method of how I do that. It's all about stuff like this and getting students to know themselves, to build them up so they can be better prepared. Um, and I chose this book. We're going to go right into it because I know we can, we could probably deal with this for a little bit. I chose this book because one, I am in I would say a change in life, a change in transition, even though I've been in higher ed for almost 20 years. I'm also in seminary, and so I'm finishing my seminary program in May. But that has been a life-changing experience for me. And so when Oprah came out with this book, I was one of the first ones to get it and be a part of her book club and going through the book and having conversations about it. But this was really a confirmation, I would say, and as to how I was thinking about my career and what I've been doing all of my life, and how this matches what I've been doing all my life, and not just what I've been doing for a career. And so I kind of want to get the conversation started. And Vinny, how are you?
I've got the sniffles, so I had to mute so I don't
Okay.
disrupt the
That's
proceedings. But my name's Vinny. I'm an associate registrar at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. And I finished a doctoral program last year, and I got tired of reading for school. So this book club has been a real great way for me to start reading for professional development and to do something other than watch TV and fill my time with things that aren't productive.
Admirable. Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of the club, and I'm glad, to be finding content that's relevant to the subcommittees of AACRAO and to, kind of get my foot back in and get more involved because I had some time away when I was getting busy with school.
Gotcha. And so let's do a quick introduction as far as your name and then what school. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. This is Monique Wilson. I'm in UNC Charlotte, Office of the Registrar. I'm a scheduling analyst here.
Thank you. Quickly, it doesn't have to take time. Let's see, we have Rebecca, we have some other, Denise. Okay, let's get started. Come on, ladies.
I'm Denise. I'm the registrar at Doane University in Nebraska, and I'm on Central Time, so I'm eating lunch. So that's why I muted my camera.
Great. I'm on Central Time too. Wonderful. All right, Ms. Hufford.
My name is Adela, and I am an associate VP for retention at Goshen College, small liberal arts college in northern Indiana.
Wonderful. Anyone else?
Looks like Kelly gave a chat. Sorry, I'm not available to speak, but I can listen. This is Kelly from Pacific Oaks College in San Jose, California.
Okay, wonderful. Anyone else? And if you don't want to, it's okay, because we have lots to discuss when it comes to this book. And I hope that everyone that's on this call has the book.
I'm Rebecca Ringham.
Anyone else want to introduce yourself quick?
Hey, Rebecca started talking. Hi.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Ringham. I'm with Minot State University in Minot, North Dakota. I'm also Central Time, so I'm also eating lunch while we talk.
Wonderful.
Welcome to Alberta from Met Community. I'm also eating lunch, and I'm on East Coast time, so.
Okay. It's fine. It's fine if you want to introduce it. It's really okay. Let's get started. I think, and you all, Mike and Faduma, if y'all could just let me know if someone is chatting, because I think I turned my thing off.
Absolutely.
What I loved about this book, I first thought that we were going to kind of slowly walk through it, but it's only less than an hour, and so I kind of want to start with what overall, if I can have one or two people, resonated with you all with this book before I begin, because I can go on and on. And when you're answering the question, I want you to look at the whole concept of the book. It's not just the words that's in it, it's really how the book was designed. And if you know anything about Oprah, you know she is a nature person. She's spiritually connected to not just nature, but just a higher power and spiritual being, and that life is in everything. And so as you went through each chapter, you saw how she broke down each chapter by a word, like the seeds, the roots, the clouds. All of that was intentional, right? And so when you're looking at the word, because what I did is when I opened the book, I looked at the table of contents, which I do with every book that I read, and I was really fascinated by just how she just had just the one word to represent what we was getting ready to get, delve into. And I loved how she used the pictures to represent how she wanted to unfold our purpose, and how we should think about the purpose in life, and what we're doing and how we're doing it, and how we're moving and how we're flowing, and what is really embedded in us, and which is the seed. How is the seed planted, and how does that seed grow, and what is the roots, what is the cloud, what does all of this mean? And so let's talk. So what did you all think about, first, what was your favorite chapter? And from that chapter, who resonated with you? Whose words?
This is Tiffany. I think the clouds was probably the one that resonated with me the most, and I really liked NDRE's section. The book in general, it was nice to see that some of the things you may think and feel about yourself that you think are just your own internal things, that there are other people out there struggling with some of those same issues, and just being able to hear some of the ways that they come through some of those situations was nice to hear.
Yes. Thank you, Tiffany. Great. Anyone else? Because if not, I'm going to keep talking, and you all could just cut in if you need to. Okay. So I think my favorite chapter, I'm a little biased because I love it all, but my favorite chapter is The Whispers. The Whispers chapter had a lot to do with what we needed to listen to internally, what that small, still voice says. Some people will call it a conscious voice, a spiritual conscious voice speaking to us. Some will call it intuition. Some call it different things. Carolyn Miss. I love Carolyn Miss. She made a point to say, because people hear when they've betrayed themselves, people are that was very poignant to me. One, because the word betraying a self, what does that mean? And honest with themselves. A lot of us aren't honest with how we're feeling and how we're moving and flowing in our everyday life, it could be professionally, and it could be personally. And so I'm very intentional when it comes to knowing and feeling and listening to what we consider our truth, and how honest we are about ourselves with that. Adashanti, also on page 53, it comes from a spiritual perspective. And the quote I would mention is, but no matter how much fulfillment we get, there's that place inside that until we've realized the truth of our being, we will feel estranged from our own being. That is something to think about. Those are those aha type of moments that we have to really reflect on, right? And from that, the conversation deals with what am I thinking about what I'm doing every day in this higher ed arena, right? What energy am I gravitating towards? What am I not liking? What do I like? And so that's why the whispers is important, because we are often hearing these whispers that we have, but we ignore them so much because we want to please others. So someone else give me something about a chapter that they like and who speaks to them.
I was saying,
Okay.
there was, I left the book at home, but I did take a screenshot when I was reading it. Part of the thing was I felt like every snippet that was there, I had to go back to the biography part at the back because I didn't know who all the people were. So I did like how it was a mix of spiritual and academics and celebrities. That part was kind of cool. But I had one that I had, it was page 94. It was Jeff Weiner saying, management is telling somebody what to do and leadership is inspiring them to do it. Inspiration comes from three areas: the clarity of one's vision, the courage of one's conviction, and the ability to effectively communicate both. And I think for me, I work with a nonprofit group where I've done more managing than I have in my career so far. And that was something that I've worked with so many different people. I was at a small college that was on the verge of closing before a larger university took over. So I went through a lot of managers at that old school when people were trying to get things right. And I saw good and I saw horrible. And that was something that kind of spoke to me about the kind of leader I want to be someday and the kind of manager I want to be someday, not just telling people what to do, but, making them find the good in it and the reason for wanting to do well and not just doing it because they're told to.
That's good. I like that. I have a question for you, but I want to see if anyone else has anything to add. So Vinny, when you were reading through the book, do you know what your purpose is?
I think it's in flux, and I think it's always kind of in flux for me. Higher ed's something I kind of stumbled into from a completely different perspective from where I wound up now. I've had a lot of changes going on in my personal life as well, so I think that's kind of the timing of this book was good. But I'm a pretty introspective person, and I think I have a good sense of direction and purpose. But this makes me think more about how to tie that to my professional life. I think I define myself more by what I'm doing outside of work than what I do at work. And even when I was doing my last graduate program, the registrar's office isn't necessarily the flashiest area of a university or something where you really remember the impact you could have on students. It's a little more administrative. It's a little more policy driven. So for me, this was helpful to try and remember how I wound up here and, how the work I do still does support students in the, as they're looking to find careers and be successful in life.
And so I can see that as the chapter on the map, right? Just trying to navigate it and bring it kind of to some points. I look at, what people do, because I know we are student driven, but we're also leaders of our own teams. And how do you give to your team? not just the students, because we know that's something that we should do. That's so something that we're supposed to. And I think often there's people in leadership that do not give their best selves to their team. So how do we do that? And it's too, recognizing is purpose what you do at work, or is your purpose who you are, period. My purpose is who I am. So in every aspect of my life, you're getting Christy, right? And I'm giving something of myself. And so, Vinny, to your point, even though I'm trying to think what chapter was that you used, but the point that you made and how you're thinking about there, outside of there, and what you do for students is to also just looking at just how you move, period, and what sense does it all make, right? Does anyone else?
I agree with that. This is Monique, by the way. I'm sorry, I don't have my video on. I agree with that statement and that sentiment, and also with what Vinny was saying. And to that, I'll add, and I'm going to go back to the Whispers chapter, where Carolyn Miss spoke about giving it your all, and just, you know, you got to give it, she says, you got to give it your all, you have to give it your best. And I think that if you give it your all, even in your personal or your professional life, and you do what you have to do, you know, it's a reflection on, you know, yourself. And then Oprah chimes in and she says, and then not be attached to the outcome. And I thought that was very powerful. You give it your all, you give it your best. What were you saying?
No, I was going to tell you to talk a little bit more about that. How did that part, and then not be attached to the outcome, how did that part resonate with you? How?
I think that when you attach yourself, if you give it your all and you give it your best, and when, I'll just say people in general, myself as well included, but people in general tend to attach themselves to the outcome, and with that comes a lot of anxiety and a lot of, you know, like they kind of internalize, you know, things that are beyond their control. So if you've done everything that you can, which is in your control, within your control, and you've done your best, also within your control, then you don't have to attach yourself to the outcome. Let the chips fall where they may, and you know that you've done everything that you can. And that goes with personal, I think, and with professional. And usually the outcome, once you've done your best, is usually positive, I think, and 9 times out of 10. And if in that 1 time out of 10 that it's not, is usually probably out of your control, and you shouldn't attach yourself to those things. I think brings a lot of anxiety and you know, regret and worry and things like that you don't want to carry on with you.
Yeah, I think the attachment piece, and I would have loved to have heard, and I could probably go back and listen to it because I think she did interview Carolyn. I love Carolyn. I have her books. She's a specialist when it comes to the anatomy and the spirit. So she's an intuitive person, and she believes that how you are and what affects your body has to do with how you interact and how you engage, and just your belief system and just your whole behavior and personality. That all has to do with your health and your anatomy. The thing of not being attached to the outcome, I think what I took from that, Monique, was when we attach to something, higher ed is all about outcomes. It's all about reporting. It's all about data. It's all about who needs what when. And a lot of the who needs what when is very unrealistic, but they wanted us to make it happen, right? And so we can give our best selves when we're doing what we need to do. I think the overall attachment comes when you carry that forward. So when you're done with that report, when you're done with meeting that goal and that need, how are you walking away from that day? How are you getting in your car? What are you doing when you're driving home? What do you do when you get home? What do you do when for us higher editors that might be going to school, how are we attaching every little thing to something else that can, yes, develop stress, add to the stress, which could hinder our health. And so I think to Carolyn's point, how I've walked away with that was do what you got to do your best in what you got to do for that time. And then learn how to release that so you can be your best self for something else and someone else. That's pretty much how I read that. But that was good. I like that. I like that, Wendy. Thank you. Anyone else want to share?
This is Denise, and I actually listened to the book in my car driving. And after I listened to it, I thought I really need to go buy that book and highlight because I was sitting there driving thinking, I want to remember some of this, and I know I won't without having it in front of me. But what was interesting with listening to it was all the quotes you read were I listened to the actual speaker saying those words to Oprah, her actual interviews. So you got to hear it in their tone and their inclination and like their passion coming through when they were talking. So what like you kind of said at the beginning, that it's amazing how many people feel similar and have that passion that we want to be on the right path. We want to do the good thing, whether it's helping students or even with our family. And to hear that come through with the enthusiasm, it was a different experience. And I thought I should go back and just see what it looks in print, because I bet I'd read it. I won't read it with that enthusiasm maybe that they were expressing verbally. I mean, I could almost picture Oprah's stage in some of them, like her sitting down and interviewing these people from her old TV show. But it was just I'm 45. I've been in the same job 15 years. I would say I'm at a ruddy point in doing the same thing. I have a freshman in college now, so I'm getting to the empty nest syndrome. So there was lots of the points that hit home for me with feeling change at home, but kind of a little stagnant at work, and what could I do to make things where I'm more back engaged again with work and feeling that passion again that's kind of maybe subsided a little bit after doing it for so long. So just made me start thinking, what do I need to do? I need to do something different. I need to go out there and find something to get my fire lit again. So
to ignite you, huh, Denise?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we all come to that. A lot of us do come to that crossroad where we trying to find a way to kind of get excited about something again. But I believe that if you just, we don't do a good job with reflecting our days, right? And so I think if we spend time with ourselves, we can get a better knowledge of what it is that does excite us. And even in your day-to-day, you're doing something, and there's something, a whisper that could be speaking that you probably aren't hearing because you're just not in that place to. And that's what a lot of this book deals with too, is finding your own way. One of the speakers of this book talks about that, and we all have to find where that way is, but we have to spend time with ourselves. Spend time with ourselves, we're going to constantly get distracted, and we're going to constantly get off course. And so it's just finding a way to get back or to get to the road of what will ignite us and get us excited. And sometimes that just takes being innovative in what we're doing every day and what that means, right? And how can we be innovative with that? Who else has something? While I'm looking for this one page.
Hi there, this is Rebecca. The part that I thought was really interesting, it's like the very center of the book. It doesn't have page numbers on it. It was Carolyn Mice, where she talks about being on the right path.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the part reads, "You're never on the wrong path, you're just not managing it well." And I thought that was very interesting to kind of connect back with what you guys were saying, that, you know, maybe you need to find some spark or a whisper to modify what you're doing right now, but you're still not progressing on the wrong path. It's just not, you're just not managing it well.
Right, because she gives a little testimonial about her own narrative of something that happened, I believe, in her life before she went into that. But it's so we kind of got to understand that the whisper is something it's nothing that's created. It's something that's there. It's just there. It's a part of our, I think, our, spiritual connection, right? If we believe in a higher being or whomever, it's something that's there within us that has been with us all along. In this book, it talks about that too. I'm trying to think if it was Bernard or someone else that mentioned it. But the purpose is something that we're born with. It's something that we have. It's just us Westerners, we get off kiltered a lot because of a lot of other demands that's in our life or what we're going through. And it's really finding what has always been innate in us and to bring that forth. And how can we do that? One way that I've done that after reading this, going through seminary, is spending time with myself. When I get off work, I'm off work. I listen to something in my car. I love music. And so me and music, we go hand in hand. I drive. I'll either listen to an audiobook or I'll listen to some music going home. When I get home, I do whatever I need to do. I manage my day where I'm spending at least 30 minutes before I go to sleep or even when I wake up for me. And I'm trying to be aligned as to what I'm feeling, how I'm going to flow for the day, everything. And to try to be attuned to what I'm saying to myself or what myself is speaking to myself, if that makes any sense. And so the whispers is just something that's always there. How about, what did you all think about the road and the climb? That chapter. And it starts on page 104 and 105. Oprah was talking about her philosophy on the road. Her definition of it is the flow. There's a flow. You have the power to seek the highest, truest expression of yourself. The critical word is true. So there's in being your truth. She's all about being your truth. And so she gives her narrative in the beginning. And then Deepak Chopra talks about everybody's looking for the future. They're never in the present. And so you all know that this is an age of mindfulness and being present. What does that mean to even be present, even in what you're doing at work? How present really are you? Or is it that it's just the demand that's put upon you that you just have to make sure that the task is checked, right? And what does that mean? Is it just a task being checked? Or are you really present in that experience? And then being present in that experience means, how are you feeling in that moment? Are you irritated? Are you bored? Are you tired? Are you thinking about something else, right? So what is your feeling with all of that? I think what happens a lot of times in career careers that we've been in for a long time, we lose that flicker. She talks about that too. We lose that flicker, and so that's why we go back to school, in a sense, to find something new and fresh. Or we want to be active in some type of professional organization like AACRAO, right? Or we want to do something where we're meeting new people or we're meeting new challenges. But what is the real reason why we're seeking those challenges? Is it just because we're just trying to get over the boredom, or are we really trying to tap into really what it is that's going to give us energy, right? Who else want to share? I can go on and on, but I want this to be interactive.
I was gonna say, everybody talking about giving your all and finding your passion, and I mean, obviously, I totally agree. But when you mentioned the energy part, that's where at least my ears kind of perked up a little bit more, just because maybe it's because I'm raising, an infant, but I feel stretched thin and not very energetic. So maybe I got to pick this book up and see if it can motivate me. That's all I want to add. So sometimes I feel like there's not enough hours or not enough ways for me to kind of pep myself up to give my all, or to be very passionate about work when I've got the baby at home.
Yeah. And it could just be you're tired. And it could be, Mike, that, sometimes when you have so much going on, so much happening, you kind of, women like to say, we lose ourselves. Well, men do that too. Men lose themselves too. And so it's just really being deliberate, I think, about etching out, even if it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes for yourself. Even if that's just listening to one song, or if that's just pecking on your keyboard, Mike, or something, running, just finding some time for yourself. She talks about the give, but I think it's more so giving to others in her chapter. And she says that people may not remember what you did or what you said, but they always remember how you made them feel. And she talks about the value of your voice. What do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to live? And then that chapter goes more into what it looks like for them in their lives, and how people needed to make some adjustments with themselves. What did you all think about that? Whoever has the book on the give. And that starts with page 134. Does anyone have the book with them? Is everybody at work? Not unless you all just like to hear me talk. I can talk. Okay, I'll mention some things that I like. Brian Stevenson, he said, by how often you actually position yourself to help those who need help. Well, in higher ed, it's like, that's just what we do, right? Let's see, Thich Hat Han, I think I said his name right. He mentions deep listening is a kind of listening that can help relieve the suffering of others. When I read this part, I thought about how we listen to students, but not just students, how we listen to each other and how we listen to those that report to us. How do we listen to them? It's not just hearing, it's listening, right? And so when you're active listening to someone, you're looking at body language, you're listening to how they're saying it. And that's also being present, because you can repeat some things that they've said to you. You know, Deepak, I think you all should know about Deepak Chopra, but he talks about it. When you get in touch with the soul consciousness, you become aware that other people also have a soul, and you communicate with that. Then you realize that you're both part of a more divine realm that's called divine consciousness. And there's others. Anyone else want to share something from the book that they like?
I'll share. In that same chapter, on page 142, Marianne Williamson, I just found that so interesting. It goes along with some of the readings that I'm doing with a first year class, but just about that, the difference between the majority and the minority, and that much of history has changed because of the minority speaking up and not the majority at the time.
Yeah, you want to read the exact quote?
Yeah.
That you liked?
Yeah. The majority of people didn't wake up one day and go, let's free the slaves. The majority of people didn't wake up one day and say, let's give women the right to vote. It's because a small group of people, usually considered outrageous radicals by the status quo of their day, had a better idea. That's how evolution works.
Yeah, I like that one too. That was nice. Who else? How did that resonate with you when you read that? How could you see yourself in that? Or how did you?
I think that right now I'm probably more in that part where it says everybody's waiting on the majority to all agree that we need to move in a certain direction. And I think oftentimes I fall into that either because I'm not sure of what my purpose is or what direction I need to be headed in. And so I'm not always confident enough to speak into that or feeling brave enough to go against the majority. And so there's a timid spirit sometimes to not speak into the minority part, if that's how I really feel.
Yeah, so it's finding your voice, right? And so it's that's really a common thing amongst women, is finding our voice in spaces and places that we don't agree or we might have something different to say. And how would the reaction be? The stress comes from how you feel others are going to react to you, right? And I see that more as denying your voice. And who knows what you have to say might resonate with somebody else, and they might agree with you, right? And so it's being bold about it. It's being bold about how you're thinking and how you're feeling, but delivering that in a way that won't be taken as aggressive, or won't be taken wrong, but letting your voice be heard. And I think with a lot of some of the writers in this book, and what I know about them, they've all had that testament in some form or fashion in their life. But you kind of just got to do like what Nike say and just do it. Because if you wait to feel that it has to be a certain time for you to do it, the time might not ever happen. And so that whisper has been speaking to you saying, you need to say it. You need to say it. And you're not saying it. So you're denying yourself your voice. And so as women, we need to understand that what we have to contribute to a space, and I'm not just going to say women, but I'm going to say introverts. What we contribute to a space is what we can contribute to a space. And if someone does not agree, then guess what? Okay, they don't agree. But we say what we have to say, right? And now we can move on. But we feel better because we did lend ourselves that voice, right? So that's part of a cloud. That's part of the clouds that Oprah talks about. We all have this cloudy in our that hinders from moving forward or moving to something change a little bit of our lives, a little bit of a situation. And so, yeah, that's something that you kind of gotta think about. I encourage you to use your voice and to contribute to conversations. That's going to make you feel much, much better. And whether they like it or not, you say what you had to what you had to say. You contributed to the moment. So it's having the courage, the true meaning of courage. Oprah said, okay, and this is going to be to your point. So Oprah said the true meaning of courage is to be afraid. Oh my God. She talked about it in the chapter when she was trying to open up the school in Africa. And everybody was saying, how the hell are you opening up a school in Africa? And we got so many people in the United States that need help. And she was just like, well, I mean, it's what I want to do. She was crazy fearful of that. She was afraid that it was going to fail. She was afraid that, it wasn't going to go the way it was supposed to have gone. She even had to speak. Where was it? At Harvard or somewhere? She had to give the commencement speech, right? She was fearful of that. She was like, oh my God, I'm not a Harvard grad. I didn't go to Ivy League school. I'm just a billionaire, but I didn't go to Ivy League school, right? What am I going to say to these intellects, I call them? What am I going to say to these like great minds, right? So sometimes we can create stories that can hinder us from being great, that can hinder us for contributing something that can really help somebody else or make a system better than what it's supposed to be. And so I think the thing is, and a part of that whole finding your way is, how can I feel better? How can I calm the stress that I'm putting on myself to give of myself in various ways and in spaces, right? And so that could be too part of like the road, right? That could be a part of this. And what does that road look like for me to be able to start getting my voice out there, or for bringing change into a department, or bring change to my employees, or to bring change to students? What can I do differently? So it's really sitting back and really thinking about that. And what can I do? What can I do? How can I be different? And it might cost you. It might and she has a thing in here about the climb. I think that's the next one. The climb, right? That always looks so much easier just by looking at it. It's like us watching sports and we're fussing at the TV like the Super Bowl. Why did you do that? Didn't you see him? And you know goodness well we cannot be on that field catching no football. But we sure have a lot to say about what someone is not doing, right? So the climb has to do with that whole thing of how something looks and how to achieve certain things. And so that's why the pictures and stuff is so purposeful, that she intentionally made her chapters, because it's really looking at it. And when you look at it, how do you think about that? How does it make you feel? What is my mountain? What am I climbing? What is the obstacle? What is my day-to-day, right? And so the various peoples and what they have to say speaks to maybe how you need to really navigate, how you need to do that. Lynn Twist on page 146, she was talking about, and this is a chapter on, I want to say the gift towards the end. And when you actually pay attention to nourish and love and share what you already have, it expands, where she's talking about paying attention to the energy and freeing up energy and what's caught up in the chase, to now turn and pay attention to what you already have. The reward was a wonderful chapter. This chapter talked about you're not your salary. What does that mean? Because gosh darn it, I've been underpaid for years, right? So it's really saying, what is your worth? What does that worth mean? Oprah says on 155, sometimes knowing what you don't want is as valuable as knowing what you do. So if that all speaks to spending time with yourself to talk this out. Know the joy of doing what you love and never stop pursuing it. That speaks to your passion. Vinny, in the beginning, when you were talking about that, that speaks to, that directs you right back to that, right? What that energy is and what is it that you love. Like I always tell students, what do you want to like rush to get to and hate to leave, right? And so what is that feeling? Where does that derive from? What is that root? Um, and Oprah also talks about that is your true treasure of knowing that. What I know for sure is that no matter how much wealth you come to possess, everything passes and changes with time. What is real, what is forever, is who you are, what you are, and meant to share with the world. And so that chapter has a lot to do with knowing who you are. So we have the various people um, speaking to that. Trevor Noah, he speaks to it about the ability to focus on the human beings around you. He talks about that. You know, we actually looking at this whole book, it really comes full circle, and I think that's why she ended the book with home. And I know we have like probably about 8 minutes left or so. But she ends the book, she starts with seeds and she ends it with home and what home has to say. I just summed it up coming back to self. And who is that self? Who am I? And who am I to the world? And what is it that I want to share? And how am I going to do that? Before I close it out, anyone else have anything you want to add or give? Let's say we have Rebecca, Kelly.
This is Monique. I'll jump in, chime in, and piggyback off of what she said. So it's funny because I come from a background from the garment industry. And a lot of people always say to me, how the heck did you end up in the registrar's office? And what are you doing there? And I like to, I tell people, if you're a creative, and you will always be a creative no matter where you are. That doesn't change, And for a long time, that value thing, you just rang a bell when you said that about the value thing and the salary, because I'm just like, well, does my value have a monetary number tied to it? I don't think so. That's not where my value lies. It doesn't lie in a number on a W-2. So I had to get away from thinking that, but, when I tell people that, if you're a creative, you're always going to be creative no matter where you are, that's usually my answer to them. And I mean that because, you have that work-life balance and you don't want to, everything to rotate around what you do at work. And it's hard to, get away from it. But a lot of times I do. But I will do things creatively at home on my free time so that because when I don't do it, I feel like I'm, I don't know how to explain it, like a little bit agitated, I guess. Like I need to do something to fulfill that. And so yeah. I think that goes back to that little whisper too, that like inner voice telling you that you need to reconnect with who you are. So I know that was a lot of rambling. I'm not going to continue because I know we all have stuff to do. But yeah, that
No, you weren't rambling. It made a whole lot of sense. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you made a lot of sense. Anyone else?
I was just going to share a personal.
Does anyone have any questions? Oh, go ahead.
When I was much younger in my first job in higher ed, I had a dean come to me and my performance review and said, I know you have a lot more to say. You need to just say it in meetings and things, because I was young and introverted, and I was intimidated by all the PhDs in the room, and I kept my mouth shut. And so I always hear that in the back of my head is like, just open your mouth, Denise. Somebody wants to hear it. And I think helping the students realize that too, or your employees, that, you know, with the active listening, and that you do value their opinions and their feedback and listening. I just know how long that has stuck with me, and how much I valued that from someone who was much higher than me on the chain of command, and to try to pay that forward to other people, that I'm listening and I want to hear whatever they have to say too.
Yeah, and to recognize that people are people are people. We stress so much about hierarchy and who has the degrees and who has the title, when I think it took me probably maybe about 10 years to kind of realize, like, you know what, let me just say what I need to say, and let me just offer what I need. Let me make some moves, right? At the end of the day, I mean, they get up like we do, and they go to bed like we do. So it's taking the stress away from who has a PhD or who's not, who does not. PhD is, you know, a wonderful process to have gone through. It's suicidal, as some people say. But it's that exit degree that, you know, everybody has, people that's gone through has to go. It's a process. And Oprah doesn't have a PhD. She has an honorable one, but she doesn't. So you're great. Steve, if you look at your greats and you look at the people who to their whisper, like Jobs, if you saw that movie and how he got to be how he did, you know, before he died, and what all he gave to the world with Apple. Well, he went out on his own, and he listened to that whisper, as crazy as it sounds to others, but he made it work. And so I think sometimes it's being radical, and being bold in how we need to move about our day to day, and to just shake things up for ourselves, right? And so I know my time is coming to a close. So what I will say, I don't know how we close this out, AACRAO people, but what I will say is I hope that this is something that you continue to look at. I often pick this book up when I need to just like get aligned in a way with certain things. But this book is a wonderful, I call it my little coffee table Bible, one of many that I use to help inspire and encourage others, even if it's my friends or if it's family members. I always take pictures, snapshots, and I send it to people so they can have their own aha moments about who spoke. Thank you. Those who did not and listened, thank you, because I'm going to just say you will listen to every little word. But knowing your path is just really listening, paying attention, getting to know yourself. Know yourself as much as possible. Encourage yourself, challenge yourself to be the best that you can be, so others can see your authenticity, your authentic self, right? And who that is, and not be afraid. And when you are afraid for anything, then you talk yourself through it, and just do it. Just do it and see what happens, right? So thank you all for joining in. And I don't know what the follow-up will be, but I want you all to just have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. And yeah, thank you for a path made clear.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, all. Enjoy the rest of your
Thank you.
days.
Bye.